much I've enjoyed your paintings. I do watercolors too, and I know how difficult watercolors can be. But you have a nice touch. It's very nice. Very, very attractive stuff.
Good morning, friends. My name is Molly Hiley, and I'm here today. I think we'll have Brenda back next week, is that right? But in the meantime, I'm here to welcome you, and we're all here together in this thing called life, which that was sort of a mashup of a Prince song and something that Marcy Reed Smith said last week. But how wonderful that we are all here together and that we have this community. And if it's your first time here or you're a long time New Gardener, I hope you feel a sense of belonging here this morning and welcome. If you are new, come say hi to any, actually you don't even have to come. You can just turn to your right or left at the end of meeting and say hello. We're not a pushy group, but we want to be welcoming. So please say hi, and we are glad you're here and hope that you find what you need here today in this gathered space. As you are able, please stand and sing Brother James Eyre, hymn number 211.
Good morning. Our passage this morning comes from the book of 1 Kings, chapter 19, different portions of it. It relates to the life, part of the life of the prophet Elijah. Now, Ahab King Ahab told Queen Jezebel everything Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with a sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah to say, "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like one of them." Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. When he came to Beersheba in Judah, he left his servant there, while he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness. He came to a broom bush, sat down under it, and prayed that he might die. "I have had enough, Lord. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once the angel said to him, "Get up and eat." Elijah looked around, and there by his head was some baked bread over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by the food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. There he went into a cave and spent the night. And the word of the Lord came to him, "Elijah, what are you doing here?" Then a voice, skipping a portion, then a voice came to him another time, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with a sword. I'm the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me." And the Lord said to him, "Go back by the way that you came, and go to the desert of Damascus. When you get there, anoint Hazael king over Aram."
Good morning. I'd like you to sing along, if you'd like, with the chorus, which is printed on the back of the bulletin. And I'll just demonstrate the melody. Wrong key. I'd rather live by the side of the road and try to point souls to the blessed abode than to be a king or a millionaire and live in mansions in bright array. I'd rather do a neighborly deed for some traveler or friend in need. I'd rather live by the side of the road and help some pilgrim along life's way. There are people who'd rather live in splendor, brag about the silver and the gold. People who trade God's promise for His glory to hold. There are people who would rather live in mansions, people who would rather live abroad. I'd rather have a little log cabin by the side of the road. I'd rather live by the side of the road, try to point souls to the blessed abode, than to be a king or a millionaire and live in mansions in bright array. I'd rather do a neighborly deed for some traveler or friend in need. I'd rather live by the side of the road and help some pilgrim along life's way. I'd rather have a cabin by the roadside for the pilgrimage of many passing by. Help to point souls to Jesus, to that city on high. Every day I want to help to scatter roses. Every night I point my light to shine bright, with a welcome from a little bay window by the side of the road. I'd rather live by the side of the road and try to point souls to the blessed abode than to be a king or a millionaire and live in mansions in bright array. I'd rather do a neighborly deed for some traveler or a friend in need. I'd rather live by the side of the road and help some pilgrim along life's way. How many times have you heard someone say, if I had his money, I'd do things my way? But little they know, it's so hard to find one rich man in 10 with a satisfied mind. Once I was waiting in fortune and fame, everything that I dreamed of to get a start in life's game. But suddenly it happened, I lost every dime. But I'm richer by far with a satisfied mind. Money can't buy back your youth when you're old, or a friend when you're lonely, or love that's grown cold. The wealthiest person is a pauper at times, compared to the man with a satisfied mind. When life is ended, my time has run out. My friends and my loved ones, I'll leave, there's no doubt. But one thing's for certain, when it comes my time, I'll leave this old world with a satisfied mind.
Aren't those the kind of questions we need from those kinds of voices many times? I'm honored to be asked to speak today in Meeting for Worship. Connections with New Garden and me, or our family, there have been several through the years. Coming to yearly meeting, I think I barely remember junior yearly meeting in the basement of the old meeting house across the road. And then later, it's back where, well, behind the fellowship hall there, that was the meeting room then. And the sessions over here, and then go to the adult sessions in Dana as well. Came to Guilford College. Well, let me back up a minute. I was active in 4-H club work as a member. Some of you know the motto for that, to make the best better. That'll come up later if I don't forget. If I do forget, you remember it anyway. 1962, Dad and I and the county 4-H agent headed to Raleigh. I didn't know necessarily what it was all about, but we ended up with a registered Guernsey heifer in my name, Nightdale Harmonies Justine. Yes, the Knight Dairy Farm that was up the road. I didn't know they were members or had connections with New Garden until I came to Guilford. So those kind of connections. And those connections kept giving. Dad called me in 1977, son, it's a drought year. We'll talk about a drought later too. And you got any place you can take your cows? They're yours, I consider. It was a Guernsey cow, half Angus, half Guernsey cow with a calf. And they were ready to have more calves. They did. So they kept paying. Finally, 3 years ago, I got tired of dealing with them. No, not really. But they went their way. Friends' homes didn't have any space for cows. So, if you move around, as I did moving around as a pastor, the question was, where can I put the cows? Sometimes there was a hesitancy in one interview where I didn't end up going. They said, well, just sell them. You can deal with that. No, they become pets. They were named, yes. And they knew what a feed bucket was when they got out, too. So, they can be part of life and a very interesting part. Finishing up at Guilford between, student teaching and whatever final exam there might have been for that, and graduation day, don't hold it against David Bills, but I helped he and Jean move into the parsonage. So there are connections there, like I say. Then later, as I went off to Costa Rica in a 4-H exchange program, met my wife Rossi there. We came back to North Carolina and have been here. Well, we had 7 years in Virginia. David Stanfield liked to say that he and I had lived in the same house, 50 years apart, up the parsonage at Corinth meeting. So there are connections. Then Richard worked for you, our son Richard, as youth leader with Jeff Bills. And there, his marriage to Hannah was celebrated in this room. And a few years later, the marriage of our daughter Maritza and her husband Stephen was celebrated in this room as well. A lot of connections, and good ones that way. A few weeks ago when Brenda used the same passage, I thought, uh-oh, but she went somewhere differently than I was thinking I would be ending up. And I hope whatever I say, you wait in the silence and let God speak to you as well. My words may mean nothing to you, but somebody's hand of friendship or Alan's songs, they may give us the message we need today. I understand Bertrand Russell made a quote one time: "The fundamental cause of trouble, of the trouble that is in the modern world, the stupid are cocksure, while the intelligent are full of doubt." Somebody paraphrased that to say the problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are so sure of themselves, while the wise are full of doubt. Then, as a general rule, I think you can trust the statement of my topic. It's not about you. People can be fascinating. As someone mentioned earlier, another Sunday ago, it's interesting to sit up front and watch you come in. Well, it's interesting to sit about in the middle, right behind Mary Jane, where I often sit. It's interesting that way too. And as we gather in the beautiful music that Andy usually shares with us, to relax and let God speak to us. We have different ways of seeing people. Albert Einstein's been quoted as saying, there are only two ways to live your life. One as though nothing is a miracle, the other as though everything is. I tend to agree with that latter statement. Groucho Marx reportedly said there are two kinds of people in the world: those that divide everybody into two kinds of people, and those who don't. I forget, I think it was Richard, but one time driving down the road, there's my friend. I didn't know who in the world the person was. I said, who is it? I don't know, hadn't met it, but he considered him his friend there. And I hope that's more of the overarching realm that we can put out in our world, if anything. Some people can be the bane of our existence, and others are not. The usual criticism of such persons is that we could maybe observe they've found the joy of narcissism. Oh me, it's not hard in our era where there's so much in front of us that tells us it's all about me, and it's not. We all deal with people every day that think it's all about me. Maybe a cross that we must bear. We might have an innate dislike for such kind of people, but let's be careful there. One other quote I found even yesterday. After close study, I have concluded that Jesus believed that there are two kinds of people. I've got my hearing aid in, but I didn't hear it. They're your neighbors, and he calls us to love them. They're your enemies, and he calls us to love them. Those who follow Jesus know that our temporal lives are not all about us, but about someone else. One of the striking things about the four Gospels is almost immediately we see God trying to be in touch and talking with those he had created. Then, as we look through later points of time, we see the person like John the Baptist, who certainly doesn't think it's all about him. He is a powerful speaker, a powerful personality, yes. But he knew his role was to point to Jesus. It was about being a witness to something more important than himself. So with that little bit, we turn to Elijah, probably one of the most famous Old Testament characters as a prophet. And we see him coming forth not just in the Old Testament, but if you remember the story of the transfiguration of Jesus, there also was Elijah along with Moses. John the Baptist was not accused, but people wondering, is this Elijah come back to life? So we turn to Elijah perhaps at one of the low moments of his life. A perfect example of how narcissism can mess you up. That passage from 1 Kings, and I hope you will read the whole passage because I skipped some that I will allude to and talk about. But Scripture itself can speak to us. That's why I always try to include it. And if nothing else, it may be better than anything I say. So we find Elijah after the triumphant encounter with the disciples, the prophets of Baal, in an encounter where he calls down fire and kills all the prophets. He wouldn't have made a good Quaker, I'm afraid. But he's there. He's in his world in that day and that time. So let's look what we can learn from his experience. With all that had gone on, perhaps Elijah wrongly started to believe that this ministry thing he was doing was all about him. Even King Ahab, in his breathless recounting to Queen Jezebel, highlighted the prophet's role. He told her all that Elijah had done, how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. Killed 450 prophets. You know, Elijah could get the big head, couldn't he? Not a good one, but he could get it. Call down rain after 3 years of drought. I started to worry back in the spring how little rain we had. At least I didn't have any cows to feed right now, but the farmers that were out there, I could worry about them. Costa Rica had a drought year the year I was there. That meant we skipped a rainy season. So you had a dry season, a non-rainy wet season, and another dry season. I thought I'd never see the world look as bad. I think about 2002 when here in Greensboro we were desperate for water. It still didn't look as bad as there. there, Elijah told Ahab there's going to be a 3-year drought. And here he comes to confront the prophets of Baal in that mighty encounter. And he calls down rain and lightning to set the drowned altar on fire. And it happened. So it was quite a show. Elijah was front and center. Perhaps he felt entitled until the wicked queen of the north, in a fiery rage, said, in 24 hours, I'll have you dead. And with all the bravado gone, Elijah disappears faster than leaven at Passover. He's running south. He goes south. When God questions him, what are you doing here? Elijah's response is telling. Things have gone against him. He alone is left in Israel to worship Yahweh. The moment highlights a subtle but dangerous trap. The tendency to make ourselves the center of the story. Elijah's complaint, I've been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have abandoned your covenant. I'm the only one left. That reflects a narcissistic narrative where he is the principal player and an indispensable one at that. I'm serving you and I'm the only one left. We might be surprised to know that God doesn't care if we've been the elder brother working faithfully on the farm, or if we devote 20 or 30 hours a week to charity work, to helping our neighborhood. If you give more faithfully than anyone else, what God really wants to know, are you able to hear the sheer silence? Or as the King James puts it, the still small voice. God wanted conversation, as I said, and fellowship with Adam and Eve. God's desire for us to be in dialogue and in relationship with Him is constant if we really read through the Scriptures. The Gospels have Jesus repeatedly saying something to the effect that those who have ears should listen. Even more to the point, there in Revelation chapter 3, verse 20, there is the written picture of Jesus at the door of our house, of our hearts, knocking and saying, if you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in with you, eat with you, and you with me. But Elijah had forgotten. He had forgotten that it was all about God, not us. Part of Elijah's despair, and often the despair that we might feel in certain situations, stems from his assumption that the success of God's mission depends solely on him. He clearly views himself as the sole faithful prophet, magnifying his role and minimizing God's sovereignty. There are several components to this despair that can be part of any of our lives in a moment of being down, depressed. The self-pity, the exhaustion and the need for sleep, the exaggerated sense of self-importance, the sense of futility. I can't do anything. Let me die. Let me be gone. And how many times, sadly, can we look around our world and remember people that have made themselves gone? And Elijah would have been stuck there, except for God's ability to break through the self-deception and begin a new story. So what does God do? Think about the 2 times he asked Elijah through the voice, "What are you doing here?" One of the ways we did 4-H in some of the times was not a project, but a method called Plan, Do, Review. Plan. If you goofed up the plan, well, that's what you take care of in the review. If you didn't get as far as you needed to get, take care of the review, then start over and do something. To get Elijah's attention, not in the earthquake, not in the wind, not in the fire, but finally he heard that still small voice. And God put him to work again. God used action verbs. Maybe kind of, you might say, smack him in the head. Pay attention, Elijah. Wake up. You're still valuable to me. There's things for you to do. Go. Start animating the future leaders and prophets that are needed. What are the lessons for us in this fascinating case of a frustrated, narcissistic prophet Elijah? Perhaps we should be careful and be aware of the danger of self-importance. We are part of a larger story. If you have a leading for what New Garden should do or what you should be doing in ministry, our Quaker background tells us you won't be alone in that. Someone else independently in the meeting will have that leading as well. Look for God in the small things. As Alan mentioned in that song, Cabin by the Side of the Road. Elijah expected God in the wind, the earthquake, and the fire, but no, it was in that still small voice. Or could it be the voice of a youngster here in our room? That reminds us that God's work often occurs in the small, quiet acts of kindness, patience, and love that we could so easily overlook. There's a divine relationship between the little things, the apparently insignificant moments, like responsibility, love, justice, and truth. Those who are wise look for God in all the right places. Like Elijah, we may face obnoxious people. We don't like it, but be careful. We may face unwelcome news and troubled times. We might begin to wonder what it's all about. We might be in danger of thinking it's all about me. But it's not. It's all about God. Thanks be to God. In closing, I want to leave with you 3 other quotes. Richard Rohr: "The ego gets what it wants with words. The soul finds what it needs in silence." Let that sink in. And from Howard Thurman: "In the stillness of the quiet, if we listen, we can hear the whisper of the heart, giving strength to weakness, courage to fear, and hope to despair. And then I hope a quote you well know from John Greenleaf Whittier. And so I find it well to come for deeper rest to this still room. For here the habit of the soul feels less the outer world's control. The strength of mutual purpose pleads more earnestly our common need. And from the silence multiplied by these still forms on either side, the world that time and sense have known falls off and leaves us, God alone.